Up, Cowboys and Cold Ones on the YouTube. Remember, check it out. Cowboys and Cold Ones on July 7th. Got a good one for you guys today. We don't want to waste any time with the intros. We just want to get right into it. First off, real quick, though, as we always do, I have a different drink, something to go with a holiday this time around. I just found this in my fridge and my mother-in-law because I have not been to the store. We're going to drink something that I would probably get my man card taken away from. It's called a Seagram. I've actually never had these before, but we're just going to drink it on the show for the heck of it. We're going to bring on real quick, as we always bring on the guest, introduce him the right way. Dallas Cowboys radio and TV host. You know him from the draft show during the regular season on Twitter. Big part of Cowboys Nation Twitter. Good friend of mine, Kyle Youmans, joins the show. Kyle, appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So you're going with a Seagrams for my show today? This is
Miller
Lite.
I mean, I thought, take my man card away. Maybe you can give it back by the end. But have you had Seagram?
I actually have before. It's been a while though. I don't think I've had it since college, but
it's just like
I've had it once or twice. Yeah, what is it, like 4% or something like that? I'm rocking with the non-carbonated Deja Blue purified drinking water today. Right. That's the cold one that I'm drinking today. It's not really cold. It's actually kind of lukewarm, but
that's the healthy aspect of it. Plus, you're going to drive after this anyway.
Yeah, it's true. Very, very good point.
Kyle, what's the off season been like, man?
It's been fun because it was a lot early on with the Dak Prescott signing and kind of the swirling of news surrounding that, and then his return from injury have pretty much been the biggest storylines. Which is kind of crazy to say because ever since Dak was signed, the storylines have been pretty subpar from then on out. I mean, we can talk about Dan Quinn. No, it's not. It's not a bad thing at all. And I think it's kind of a byproduct of getting a lot of guys back from injuries and just kind of the uncertainty of where this team is, because 6-10, I don't think is indicative of the talent that's on this roster. But you would also say that 6-10 might be indicative of what you put together last year, just based off of the coaching staff and maybe some of the holes that you had, especially on the defensive side. So those have been the storylines, and it's been very chill. I think Hard Knocks was kind of the first thing that was out of the ordinary, other than the Dak Prescott signing, was the announcement that we were going to be on the Hard Knock show. But overall, it's been pretty subdued around the stars these days.
For you personally, have you got much of a break since the draft show? I know that probably wore you down.
Yeah, I've gotten plenty of time off. I've taken a couple trips here and there with the girlfriend and gotten to see a bunch of family as well along the way. Before the draft, I went to the mountains, went skiing for a little bit, and then after the draft, we went to Miami and kind of chilled on the beach in Miami, South Beach down there. So that was a lot of fun. But other than that, it's been getting ready for the season. I'm excited for training camp. I'll be heading out to Oxnard 2 Tuesdays, or 2 weeks from yesterday, I guess is what it was. So we're getting down to it to head out there and be a part of it as well.
I mean, you guys started the draft show pretty earlier normally than what you would have done because of the season last year. Does it feel like this offseason's been a little more lingering than maybe years past you've been with the Cowboys?
No doubt. It's felt like it has been forever since we've talked about it. But also at the same time, we have less than a month until our first preseason game. Yeah. And that kind of blows my mind at the same time, because you have less than a month till the preseason game, but you also feel like this offseason has lingered on. And I think the reason why is because of the start the Cowboys had. I mean, at 3-8, 3-9, and you're working toward the end of the season. I know they went on a bit of a run there at the end to make things at least interesting. Mm-hmm. It did feel like the offseason kind of started early, and we started the draft show, like you said, after the Cowboys were 3-9, and went all the way up until draft day, and then a week after draft day. So we had been talking about the draft quite a bit, and man, that's a ton of fun to do. But man, I do not want to start it I don't want to start it early again this year. I would rather start it February.
That'd be nice.
Mid to late February would be fantastic to start the draft show, and we'll see how that ends up working out this year.
And just talk about a 32nd overall pick in the first round. That'd be kind of fun too, right?
I'd be okay with that, or no first round pick at all, but in a good way, like we traded down or did whatever we needed to do. But yeah, 32nd.
Captain trade down rides, right?
Slot. Yeah, absolutely. Shout out Jeff Kavanaugh.
Yeah. But I was going to go on to the rookies after that. from a personal standpoint, I've always wondered this. I'm sure people do. Just a small, quick story. Can you get into it? What's your journey been like from, hey, you're this young kid. I mean, we all know it, but all of a sudden you're working for Jerry Jones' $1 billion revenue of the Dallas Cowboys. How'd that happen?
So it was kind of crazy how it worked out. And the reason, or I wouldn't say the reason, but the journey started when I was in high school. I basically decided I wanted to go into sports broadcasting, and play-by-play was kind of the goal. And it still is technically a part of the goal at the moment. That's what I have my passion in doing. But studio hosting was always there as well. I did both at the University of North Texas, where I graduated from in 2018, did a lot of stuff with the athletic department for the Mean Green. And then from there, I did a lot of high school football. I got a job down at ESPN Radio in Central Texas, where I'm from. I grew up, born and raised in Waco, was a Cowboys, Rangers, Mavericks fan down in Central Texas. And so got a job back down there. Was on a morning show for just a little bit, about 9 months there before I went to minor league baseball. But it was the connections in high school football that actually put me in the right spot to get a job with the Cowboys. And that happened after I went and did some minor league baseball with an affiliate of the Mariners, did some play-by-play and media relations for them. And then I came back and got a job offer as a production assistant. I was behind the scenes. I was running the cameras, and then I started running the podcast, was punching podcasts and stuff like that for all of the different shows that we do on DallasCowboys.com. And ultimately there ended up being a spot on the draft show. And I approached my boss, Derek Eagleton, about it and said, hey, I would love a chance to try and do this. I do some stuff on air. Let me have a shot at it. I've loved the draft. I've covered the draft since back in my college days, honestly, because I love college football so much. And he was so gracious in letting me take a chance there. And it kind of started snowballing from there. Started getting a couple more opportunities and just had to take advantage where I could. But it really has been a blessing to be where I am right now. And I don't take a day for granted. If you think about it, just think of it this way. I've been up here at the Stars since 8 a.m. this morning, and I'm on an interview here until what would it be, about 6? And it's the off season, and we're 2 weeks away from training camp. This is when no one's in the building and nobody's doing anything. I love what I do, and I work really hard to make sure that the fans out there get the best content available.
That's awesome. All right, real quick, because I know we don't have a lot of time, but I want to talk about the rookies. Micah Parsons was the first-round pick. We traded back to get him. You know that. From your notes, what do you like about him? What makes him so special of an athlete?
His versatility is the number one thing I think that intrigues me as a rookie prospect, because at some point he'll be pigeonholed into a role. He'll find a role, whatever he's best at. But right now, it's where do you want to put him in that role, especially when you have two linebackers that have started on your defense, like a Leighton Vander Esch and a Jalen Smith, that have tenure, at least at the moment. I know they're not necessarily the number one options for Cowboys fans out there right now. And sure, I have my reserves about those two guys as well, but they are the starters at the moment. So where do you fit in a 12th overall pick and a guy who is athletic as Micah Parsons and has as high of a ceiling as Micah Parsons does because of his versatility and his athleticism? I think that's what's intriguing the most to me. Now, as you know, just because you were a listener of the draft show, we all kind of had our reserves about Micah Parsons as well, his off-the-field maturity. Bucky Brooks brought it up a couple different times early in the draft process, and I think since then we kind of wrote Micah Parsons off as a lesser choice, a plan B of sorts, where if there's no corners and you don't want to take an offensive lineman, then he's your guy. That's almost plan C for a lot of us out there, because, I mean, even I myself was very high on Rashawn Slater, and I would have liked to see Rashawn Slater taken.
I blame you guys because you drilled in our head a cornerback every other show.
Yep. And I've actually lived up to that, and I've owned up to that since the draft was or since the pick was made, really. I said, this kind of might be on us, because Micah Parsons is not a bad player. He is a very good football player. It was the reserves compared to some of the other prospects that gave us pause. And I think that's what's kind of that's where the retracting has been coming from a lot of Cowboys media and a lot of Cowboys draft experts and draft experts around the league in general, is saying he's not a bad player. It's just he wasn't our number one choice. And I think the Cowboys probably felt that same sentiment. They wanted one of those two corners to fall, but whenever Surtain and Horn both went off the board, the two picks prior to 10, I think they had the best case scenario where you did get another top 100 pick. We were able to draft a guy later on like Chauncey Golston out of Iowa, who, by the way, I really like as an edge rusher. There's so many positives, I think, to the Parsons pick that right now you're feeling pretty good about it, and it does set you up for success in the future, but it's still the versatility and it's the different aspects that he can bring to your defense and the speed he can bring to your defense that intrigues me the most.
You bring up the cornerback position. There's a guy that, don't get me wrong, I mean, I feel like Brian killed himself over it. 2020 was a hard, weird year. Are we all just going to be wrong about this guy? Because it seemed like in OTAs you kept hearing Deshaun Wright's name.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. We might be wrong about him. And honestly, I would love to be wrong about him because he was at the bottom of my list. And by bottom of my list, out of 459 names that I had, he was 450.
Hey, we should have his name.
Yeah, I had his name on there, which is good. And I had a line of notes, but it was mostly about Last Chance U and the fact that his brother was on Last Chance U in the most recent season. No, I really do think that he was a system pick, which, by the way, as I know he was the 99th pick overall, and usually a top 100 pick is going to have that extra pressure, but he was the 5th selected guy in this draft class. There were 4 other draft picks before Deshaun Wright. So they felt good about the fact that Deshaun Wright was available. And I do have it on pretty good authority that even early day one, or actually I should say late day one, right in the 20s, early 30s, that even his name popped up there. And now I don't think they would have selected him there, but they said, just let's keep an eye on him as these next rounds come through. So they were really confident about what they saw in Deshaun Wright. He brings the length, the speed. He's been at the right place at the right time. And he hasn't even had a chance to get physical with some of these wide receivers yet because of the lack of pads throughout mini camps and OTA. So he's one of the guys that I'm going to have circled. When you see 40 on the field, keep an eye on him whenever training camp comes around. I think he'll probably be, if I had to guess, he may be one of even the Hard Knocks guys, the heartwarming stories that you hear about on Hard Knocks and HBO whenever that rolls around. So he's going to have an intriguing next couple of weeks, and he's already had a great offseason so far.
Last rookie topic, the other cornerback, Kelvin Joseph, a.k.a. Boss Man Fat. Second-round pick. Obviously, his film against Alabama was really good. There's other games where in his past have been up and down. What are the hopes for, as a casual fan, or even you guys back there and the Star, for him week one? Or is he do you think he's going to start off by being a rotation guy, and then by week 5, maybe he plays more, week 10, he's solidified? I mean, I'm trying to get a feel for him, and hopefully training camp helps with that for us. But if you had a gut reaction, what would that be?
My gut reaction is what you just laid out, actually, is the fact that he'll be a rotation guy pretty early on. I think the 3 starters are going to be Anthony Brown, Jordan Lewis, Trayvon Diggs. Then in the middle of the year, you're going to start seeing him kind of inched a little bit more in there. I don't know who he's going to take over for. I would probably say Anthony Brown, but the money says maybe Jordan Lewis. So it's interesting to see where he would fit. I don't think he's going to sit on the sideline by any means. I think they're going to expect him to play. You're not going to see him, though, as much as maybe a Trayvon Diggs did last year, because that was more out of necessity. I think you do have a foundation in your secondary now, so the necessity isn't necessarily as crucial to get a rookie out there and have him play not only starter snaps, but significant snaps as well throughout the year. So I think he'll be inched in. You'll see more and more playing time as the year goes along. I think he could play in the slot. I think he might fit better in the slot, but he's probably going to play outside if I had to put a guess down. But it's one of those, once again, one of those position battles that training camp is going to tell us a lot about, but I don't even think it'll be solidified or settled in training camp. It's going to be settled week 5, 6, 7, 8, and then you'll see it toward the rest of the year.
Is that kind of a problem, though? You mentioned he's better in the slot, but so is Anthony Brown. So is Jordan Lewis. Someone's got to play outside.
Yeah, see, and that's kind of where I think he might have his best chance is because those two guys are more comfortable with the slot. So maybe they go into a rotation back and forth, and then it's Kelvin Joseph. Almost called him Boss Man Fat out of the way. That's pretty funny. Kelvin Joseph on the outside with Trayvon Diggs, but I don't know if you want two young guys out there, and by young guys I mean extremely young, rookie and then a second-year corner as your outside corner. So I don't know. Maybe the slot is where he sees the majority of the playing time, even though it is where Jordan Lewis and Anthony Brown see the majority of their snaps, or at least their better snaps on defense.
Okay, moving on to the veteran guys on the defensive side of the ball. This was a big controversy, the number 9 jersey.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't care. Jalen Smith wearing number 9. He probably didn't make any friends, but he didn't make any more enemies because he has a lot. Is the criticism fair?
Fair on or off the field?
Tell me the film on the field.
I think the criticism is
don't make your money off the field. I don't care what he does off the field.
Yeah, see, and that's kind of where I'm at too. Is I don't think the criticism is fair off the field as much. I think he's a guy who's very active in the community. I do respect a lot of what he does outside of the game of football. I think it's the antics and the fact that the film doesn't back it up. Because there are antics. I mean, there's the swipe, there's the celebration, there's the different things back and forth that Jalen Smith does that I think rubs people the wrong way. And he doesn't necessarily play the way that you would want a guy with those antics to have. I mean, imagine if Ray Lewis wasn't a great linebacker. If he was a mediocre, middle-of-the-road linebacker, people probably wouldn't have liked Ray Lewis. But since Ray Lewis was fantastic, since he was a great football player, he was one of the more beloved guys toward the end of his career that you could remember. And I think Jalen Smith fits into that category of middle of the road. I wouldn't even say he's a bad linebacker. He is a starting caliber linebacker in the NFL, but he just kind of puts off this mentality that he's a leader, that he's one of these elite players, and I don't think he's necessarily there yet. As somebody said it, I can't remember who exactly made this quote, but I remember it was in the middle of the season last year, and they said Jalen Smith is the best 10-yard downfield linebacker in the NFL, best tackler 10 yards down the field, and that's not a title you want. You want a guy who's going to be a headhunter, be gritty, nose to the grindstone, and find a way to get the job done on multiple occasions. And he just hasn't done that throughout his Cowboys tenure.
The play where Jalen, I can't remember the years, 18, 19, he ran down Deshaun Watson on that 4th and goal. Mm-hmm. That showed speed and the versatility to attack the football. Mm-hmm. Has his speed from that play gone down since then? I can't sit here and say, hey, this guy's looks like he's slower. It may look like it in game film, but maybe it's just more of a hesitation thing. Have you guys noticed a speed thing being a problem with him?
I don't know if it's necessarily straight speed. I think it's the recognition. And I think he got thrown off a little bit last year by Mike Nolan and the different scheme and having to switch back between the Will and the Mike linebacker because he did play separate roles at different points last year due to Leighton Vander Esch's injury. I think his recognition was there, and his agility has never really been there either. Just its change of direction, his coverage ability, those things have never really been the top parts of his game. Speed, on the other hand, I don't necessarily think speed is a huge issue. Now, there might be a little bit of a drop-off from the 2018 year because I don't know. I don't know what it could be the reason. Maybe he's more banged up. Maybe he's more cautious. There's a couple different things that could play into that. But I remember the Deshaun Watson play. The other one was the Alvin Kamara play that was on the goal line as well. Those were 2 signature plays from that 2018 season that said, oh, my gosh, this Jalen Smith guy, 2nd-round pick, he could be something. He could be something legitimate. And I think that's another part that kind of plays into the fan base turning on Jalen Smith a little bit is the fact that he saw that. You saw the signature moves. You saw the defense and what he was able to bring. And then all of a sudden there was a steep drop off and he hasn't recovered just yet.
Who has the most to prove, Leighton or Jalen?
Oh man, that's the question I would say that's the question that both Stephen Jones, Will McClay, and even the rest of the coaching staff, Mike McCarthy and company, have to figure out as well. Because I think right now you can look at this defense and say, all right, one of those two linebackers is not going to be here in 2022. You've already declined the option on Leighton Vander Esch. The contract of Jalen Smith has a potential out coming up that doesn't hurt you too bad in terms of cap space and money allocated that direction. So if you wanted to, if I were a betting man, I would say one of those two guys is not here in 2022. And I think that's what you have to decide this year. If I had to say right now, I would say it's Leighton Vander Esch. And I think that might be a surprising answer for those who maybe
I thought that too.
Shows. Yeah, it's because he's not available. It's the availability. You can't be a good football player if you're standing on a sideline in a baseball cap. And that's nothing against Leighton Vander Esch. I was not very high on Leighton Vander Esch as a draft pick, but Jalen Smith in 2018 showed that he could be a legitimate linebacker. And I think as a player, I hold Leighton Vander Esch to a higher standard than Jalen Smith at the moment, but he's just not there. And the health is such a concern, and it's a different thing every single year. If he misses significant time again this year, I think there's a chance that 55 is not on the roster when next season rolls around.
All right, moving off of that topic, defense-wise, Kyle Youmans joined the show. Appreciate it, Kyle. Hard Knocks, you excited about it, or are you just
I don't really know, honestly. It's my first training camp in Oxnard, so I don't really know what training camp is like without Hard Knocks. And also, I'm comparing everything training camp-wise to 2020 training camp, which is my only training camp I've been employed by the Cowboys. So I don't really know what I'm going to think about Hard Knocks. Now, ask me again on like August 15th after I've seen a couple episodes and there's been a couple of run-ins at training camp. Then maybe I'll tell you if it was good or bad. But I've always watched Hard Knocks. I've always thought it was a great, entertaining television show. I don't know how much it's going to relate to the team in general. And how it's going to relate to their success. I've heard this all over the place of, teams on Hard Knocks don't ever go to the Super Bowl. Teams in the Hall of Fame game don't ever go to the Super Bowl, blah, blah, blah. If you're relying on Hard Knocks to be your excuse to not go to the Super Bowl,
you're a bad team.
You're not a good team.
No.
So I think that's one of the reasons why I don't really care, good or bad, where they're at. I'm excited to watch it. I'll tell you that much. I'll be glued to the television. I'll be tweeting it as it's going out, but
and be looking for yourself, see if you pop in there.
Actually, probably, look, there I am. Yeah, that would be fun. But it's going to be a lot of fun, I think, throughout the training camp. And I have high expectations for the Cowboys. So Hard Knocks isn't going to derail that for me.
Just from the rules you guys have been given when it comes to video and everything else, compared to like what it probably would have been with Jason Garrett in the past. True or false? Mike McCarthy hates the idea of Hard Knocks coming to training camp.
Ooh, I don't know. Like you said, if my go-to to say yes or no to this answer is what we saw last year, where he legitimately shut down media availability. He took numbers and names off of uniforms and said, "Hey, you can't use any play footage during your practice broadcast," then I think he would probably say I'm against this happening. But I mean, we know how things work around these parts. It's not really up to the head coach on whether or not Hard Knocks is coming to town. And I don't think it works like that in a lot of NFL places.
No.
I don't think any head coaches really want Hard Knocks to be
Jerry loves it.
But owners and people making the money will definitely love it. I think Cowboys fans will end up loving it, though.
If you said you've watched Hard Knocks in the past, and there's always that one star, Cleveland Brown, it was that big belly guy, I can't remember his name, or there's a player, who is the star of this season's Hard Knocks? If you had to make a prediction.
See, and we had this conversation amongst some of the staff earlier of who we think it would be. Some of the names that were thrown around was Quentin Bohanna, the defensive tackle from Kentucky, Ben DiNucci, the backup quarterback spot maybe on the line for him after playing that one game last year. I think that could be dramatized a little bit. I threw out Nashawn Wright. I think Nashawn Wright might be in that category. I know we just talked about him at the cornerback spot, but I think he could be one of those names. But one that I think is going to be at least talked about is Nick Ralston, the fullback / hybrid tight end that will be trying to make the roster, but he's an Argyle native, so just down the road, won a state championship, took a year off prior to entering this draft class. He pulls semi-trucks on his Twitter page, and he does yoga after practice. I think he'll be probably one of those guys you could look at. Maybe little Kelvin Joseph, since he's got that rap game going a little bit as well.
I was going to say there might be a segment of him just rapping for the producers and behind the camera.
Probably so.
All right, offense. You got about 5 minutes left before I let you go. We're going to end the thing with a 60-second rapid questions here in just a little bit. It'll be a little fun for you. But we haven't discussed offense yet. And I don't know how the hell I got this far about mentioning Dak Prescott's name. There's never been someone in NFL history to win MVP and most valuable player in the same year. Do you know that, Kyle?
What?
No one's ever won MVP and most improved player in the same year.
Oh, okay. You said most valuable at first. I was like,
well, most valuable, MVP, most improved, whatever.
Okay.
I'm drinking. Seagram's drunk. No, but how big of a year are we about to see from Dak Prescott?
I think you're going to see I don't really even want to put too high of a bar on it just because of how severe that injury was. I think you're going to see a really good year from Dak Prescott. I don't think you're going to see record-breaking numbers like he was on pace to throw up last year. I don't think he's going to be breaking Peyton Manning's single-season yardage record unless, I guess, maybe with 17 games he can maybe do it. But I think he'll have a really good year. It's going to depend on how much playing time he sees in the preseason, how comfortable he can get mentally on that leg. And then I don't think there's going to be a ton of physical limitations. I think it's going to be a lot of rust that he's going to have to knock off in terms of reading live defenses, adjusting to the game speed of the NFL after a year off, and then, of course, testing out the ankle and taking a couple of hits. I mean, it's going to be scary for Cowboys fans to see 4 hit the turf, because as soon as it happens for the first time, we're all going to have hands on head saying, oh my gosh, please get up, please get up. But once he gets up, everything's good.
Breathe.
And you're saying, and you can breathe a little bit. And even he, as a player, I think can say, all right, I'm built. I'm back. I'm back for this. I'm ready for this. So I think it'll take a little bit of an adjustment period for him to get back to 100% Dak or even better than Dak. But I think by the middle of the year, maybe even earlier than that, I think we'll see 100% Dak Prescott, and he'll start putting up some pretty gaudy numbers again with the offensive weapons that he does have.
Just a quick answer. Don't have to go too much thought into it, but I've seen some people say, with that exact reason, it's going to take a second for him to get 100%, needs to get hit. Do you need to see one single snap of Dak Prescott in preseason? Yes or no?
No, I really don't. I really don't want to see any 4 in the preseason. I know I said maybe it relies on what he does in the preseason. We can test that out in regular season games. Let's figure it out then. Don't play him in the preseason.
Final question before we get to the 60-second rapid. Give me 2 training camp battles you're excited for.
Defensive tackle and defensive end. I know that's super boring because they're all defensive line, but there's at least 12 to 14 guys right now on the team that are fighting for a spot on the defensive line. And last year they took 10 guys total. And I don't know where that's going to fall. I mean, just look at the guys right now. Randy Gregory, DeMarcus Lawrence are going to start on your edge spots. And then after that, Neville Gallimore, Tristan Hill, Quentin Bohanna, Carlos Watkins, Brent Urban, Terrell Basham. Carlos Basham's the Wake Forest prospect. Bradley and I mean, there are so many different players. Armstrong getting out there as well. There are so many players on that defensive line that I think are going to find a rude awakening when training camp comes around, because only a certain amount can make the roster.
All right, Kyle, you ready for these 60 seconds before you get out of here?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, rapid fire. You got 12 questions, 60 seconds. If you get through them all, that's pretty cool. Here we go. Ready, set. Who has more sacks in 2021, Randy or D-Law?
D-Law.
Okay, yes or no? Dallas has 3 wide receivers with 1,000+ yards.
Yes, because I think they will all get 1,000 yards.
Okay, Micah Parsons, over, under 3.5 sacks.
Under, but just because he doesn't start at the start of the year.
Your favorite food?
My favorite food, chips and queso.
Nice. Aaron Rodgers plays for whom in 2021?
The Green Bay Packers. He'll go back.
Okay. Your favorite hobby outside of football?
Ooh, that's a good one. Probably, man, that's tough. I've really gotten into cooking and working out lately, but those aren't my favorite hobbies. I'll say fly fishing.
Who has a big season no one is talking about enough of?
DeMarcus Lawrence.
Office or Parks and Rec?
Office.
Does Jabril Cox play any important snaps this year?
Yes.
Who leads the team in interceptions?
Goodness gracious, that's hard. Trayvon Diggs.
Favorite Whataburger item?
The number one with cheese, ketchup, and mayo, or only on the burger with a large fry and a large Powerade.
All right, Kyle, where can people find you at on Twitter?
Kyle_Youmans on Twitter. I'm there on Instagram as well. Looking forward to interacting with everybody at training camp. Corey, are you coming out to training camp?
I'm testing it. My kid's birthday is on his first birthday is on July 22nd, 3rd. So
okay.
It'll be after.
It'll be after that for sure. You can't.
I'm working on it. If I am, I'll hit you up.
Okay, yeah, hit me up. Anybody out there listening, yeah, feel free to hit me up at training camp. I'm excited to interact with everybody, and yeah, you're doing great work. Everybody subscribe to the podcast. Corey's doing fantastic work over here.
Appreciate it, Kyle. Hey, safe trips to Oxnard, and we'll talk to you later, okay?
Cheers. Absolutely, my man. Okay.
Oh,
I was
go
just
ahead, do it again.
I was just giving you your deja vu.
See you, man.
See ya.
Big shout out to Kyle Youmans. I appreciate him. You can follow him on Twitter, as he said. Man, Dallas Cowboys season is coming upon us. The training camp in Oxnard will be here before you know it. Kyle put me on the spot, asked me if I'm going to be in Oxnard. I'm working on it. I am working on it. Going to have another good guest coming up here in a couple weeks, man. Remember, first preseason game against the Steelers, the Hall of Fame game. We're going to go live like we would in the regular season to test the waters. Post game, if we win, I take a shot. We'll give out our star of the game and everything else. We're going to have a good damn time. Cowboys Nation, stand up, get to Oxnard, go cheer on your team, man. It's going to be a fun year, and cross our fingers. It's a lot more successful than what the last 2 seasons have been. Do me a favor, please go to Twitter, give me a follow, retweet this promotion I'll put out on Twitter later. Subscribe. I'm not doing this for the big numbers. I'm doing it for fun. But, man, it'd still be cool to have some numbers. All right, until next week, keep it locked on at Corey Clark Radio. Let you know when we're back on with Cowboys and Cold Ones. Till then, how about them Cowboys? And cheers.